Alright, welcome to Lovins Reads Lovecraft, number 26. These are 2 books on loan to me. I read this one, The Temple. The graphic style is pretty good on this one. I like illustrated painted comics.
Like seriously, have you seen the shit from was it you that posted
Right. This is edited by Don Lockwood, but his thing is self-made hero. I don't know, I think my thing of Slagger Generation Publications is better. I have problems with the compositions of these things. I get pretty finicky about this stuff. Look, this guy has no arms. It should be drawn out to you. I mean, it's a composition thing. Anyway, there's that. Yeah, I had a change of plans today. I went over to the storage unit and there was a lady. She was right next door to my storage unit. So, couldn't really read Lovecraft when she was there. I have my character Cthulhu instead of Cthulhu, and I made this Vashir cat lady named Cat Power. I was surprised I was able to get the name without changing the spelling. There's Cat Power. She has a nice tail. She's hot for a cat. Let's get some combat in. I just been killing bears. The respawn rate is very high, so I just stand here for hours while I do other things. That was a fast kill. Okay. Are we done with this loot? Alright. Should we do some HP Lovecraft? That's kind of nice because I have my coffee and cigarette. AQ doesn't care if I use their music in this video. I've made so many videos. Polaris. It's hard to read. Let's try the book over here. That might work. In my shame and despair, I sometimes scream frantically, begging the dream creatures around me to waken me ere the Initos steal up the pass behind the peak Noton and take the citadel by surprise. But these creatures are demons, for they laugh at me and tell me I am not dreaming. They mock me whilst I sleep, and whilst the squat yellow foe may be creeping silently upon us. I have failed in my duty and betrayed the marble city of Alatho. I have proven false to Alos, my friend and commander. But still these shadows of my dream deride me. They say there is no land of Lomar, save in my nocturnal imaginings. That in those realms where the pole star shines high and red, Aldebaran crawls low around the horizon. There has been naught save ice and snow for thousands of years, and never a man save squat yellow creatures blighted by the cold, whom they call Esquimaux. Esquimaux. And as I writhe in my guilty agony, frantic to save the city whose peril every moment grows, and vainly striving to shake off this unnatural dream of a house of stone and brick south of a sinister swamp and a cemetery on a low hillock, the pole star, evil and monstrous, leers down from the black vault, winking hideously like an insane watching eye, which strives to convey some strange message, yet recalls nothing save that it once had a message to convey. Oh, my eyes aren't working. Not very good light in here. Print on this book isn't that good. Hey, I'll try it this way. That works. I can see now. The next story is Beyond the Wall of Sleep. I've been thinking, I try and watch these videos, they're hideous to watch, and I don't like the sound of my own voice much, but what can you do? And I read these stories cold. I've listened to every single one on audiobook. It's helped a lot with pronunciation, but as you can tell, I'm still cold. Beyond the Wall of Sleep. This story probably dates to the spring of 1919. Lovecraft later remarked that it was inspired by an article in the New York Tribune, April 27, 1919, about the work of the New York State Constabulary in the Catskill Mountains. In that article, the name Slater or Slaughter actually appears. Lovecraft had no personal knowledge of this region at this time. He would visit it years later. But he did know an aged poet, Jonathan F. Hoag, 1831 to 1927, who lived in the area, and he may have gained some suggestions about its history and topography from Hong. The story, first published in Pine Cones, October 1919, anticipates some features of The Shadow Out of Time. I have an exposition of sleep come upon me. Shakespeare. There's a lot of talk that Shakespeare didn't write his own material. He had a lot of scribes working for him. Sometimes only one part was given to the actor. It's hard to explain, but Shakespeare might have collaborated with all of his actors who were seasoned professionals, and they would try out material. I'm sure they made suggestions. I highly doubt Shakespeare just sat down and it just came out of his head. No, it came from working at his craft. And if he didn't write it all, then someone else just sent him the plays. If he had someone working for him, I don't know. He was still able to be an actor and perform in those plays. Okay, that's enough about Shakespeare. I frequently wondered if the majority of mankind ever paused to reflect upon the occasionally titanic significance of dreams and of the obscure world to which they belong. Whilst the greater number of our nocturnal visions are perhaps no more than faint and fantastic reflections of our waking experiences, Freud, to the contrary, with his puerile symbolism, there are still a certain remainder whose immundane and ethereal character permits of no ordinary interpretation, and whose vaguely exciting and disquieting effect suggests possible minute glimpses into a sphere of mental existence no less important than physical life, yet separated from that life by an all but impossible barrier. From my experience, I cannot doubt but that man, when lost to terrestrial consciousness, is indeed sojourning in another and uncorporeal life of far different nature from the life we know, and of which only the slightest and most indistinct memories linger after waking. From those blurred and fragmentary memories we may infer much, yet prove little. We may guess that in dreams, life, matter, and vitality, as the earth knows such things, are not necessarily constant, and that time and space do not exist as our waking selves comprehend them. Sometimes I believe that this less material life is our truer life, and that our vain presence on the terraqueous globe is itself the secondary or merely virtual phenomenon. It was from a youthful reverie filled with speculations of this sort that I arose one afternoon in the winter of 1900 to 1901, when to the state psychopathic institution in which I served as an intern was brought the man whose case has ever since haunted me so unceasingly. His name, as given on the records, was Joe Slater, or Slater, Slaader, and his appearance was that of the typical denizen of the Catskill mountain region, one of those strange repellent actions of a primitive colonial peasant stock whose isolation for nearly 3 centuries in the hilly fastnesses of a little traveled countryside has caused them to sink to a kind of barbaric degeneracy rather than advance with their more fortunately placed brethren of the thickly settled districts. Among these old folk, who correspond exactly to the decadent element of white trash in the South, law and morals are non-existent, and their general mental status is probably below that of any other section of the Native American people. Yeah, Lovecraft talks about race a lot. People of different nationalities than him. Yeah, he never graduated high school. He's one to talk. However, he does write like someone who has been to college and could probably teach English if he wasn't so lazy. He didn't want to do anything except to do his own thing. I kind of like making videos here. I can drink coffee and smoke. Yeah, I mean, if you want the real stories of Lovecraft, read them yourself. And there's better readers of Lovecraft than me. Joe Slater, who came to the institution in the vigilant custody of 4 state policemen, and who was described as a highly dangerous character, certainly presented no evidence of his perilous disposition when first I beheld him. Though well above the middle stature and of somewhat brawny frame, he was given an absurd appearance of harmless stupidity by the pale, sleepy blueness of his small, watery eyes, the scantiness of his neglected and never-shaven growth of yellow beard, and the listless drooping of his heavy nether lip. His age was unknown, since among his kind neither family records nor permanent family ties exist. But from the baldness of his head in front, and from the decayed condition of his teeth, the head surgeon wrote him down as a man of about 40. Doctors can always tell how old you are just by looking at your hip bones and your bone structure. Sorry to waste your time, but I highly doubt hardly anyone is going to watch this video anyway. Alright. A holy cough. From the medical and court documents, we learned all that could be gathered of his case. This man, a vagabond, hunter, and trapper, had always been strange in the eyes of his primitive associates. He had habitually slept at night beyond the ordinary time, and upon waking would often talk of unknown things in a manner so bizarre as to inspire fear even in the hearts of an unimaginative populace. Not that his form of language was at all unusual, for he never spoke save in the debased patois of his environment. But the tone and tenor of his utterances were of such mysterious wildness that none might listen without apprehension. He himself was generally as terrified and baffled as his auditors, and within an hour after awakening would forget all that he had said, or at least all that had caused him to say what he did, relapsing into a bovine, half-amiable normality like that of the other hill dwellers. That's a good place to stop. Thanks for hanging out with me while we do the Lovecraft thing.